Greetings, all. Shardvixen here, and today is What Does the Vixen Say? And I'm doing Bits of Me. So, the Bits of Me this time is about cars. Um, I've had quite a few cars, actually. Oh, I forgot about one. We're going to hear lots of sounds. We're in the garage again if it's not obvious. I have a mess going on again. I have to fix that today. Alright, so, I didn't get my driver's license until I was about 22 years old. Uh, my parents divorced when I was 16, and neither one of my parents would let me get a driver's license. It was a power play between them, I think. Looking back on it, I think that they thought, well, my mom said she wouldn't do it because she didn't want to be liable. And then my father said that he wouldn't do it because my mother wouldn't do it. Which the irritating thing was that in 3 years' time, my brother turned 16, and they both paid for him to get his driver's license and bought him a car. I, on the other hand, didn't get any of that. I don't know why. I mean, I've never been able to understand. Well, I kind of understand based on some things that happened in my life. Um, so, my father, when I was 18, told me that he wasn't my father biologically. He married my mom and she was pregnant, but we already knew that he married her when she was pregnant, but his name is on my birth certificate, and he uh, uh, said he was rescuing her because she wanted to get married and offered that, but he didn't really want to, so I don't know what the concept is. I think he probably did want to marry her and did want to save her. My father suffered from depression severely. He was a violent drunk, and I think that he wanted that he wanted her. I don't know that he wanted me. If I had been a boy, no. I think if I had been a boy, it'd been worse. Really, you know that whole lion pack thing, kill the offspring of the other male. I think that's what would have happened. But I do think that that's the issue. Whether that's what really happened in my family, because my mother says it's not. My mother says it was all my dad's gaslighting, um, keep me off kilter kind of thing, and to be mean, and then my dad says, but other family members have also kind of confirmed it, so I think it's just my mother that refuses to confirm it. I think she just wants it to be true, maybe. I don't know. Because she always was very adamant that I could never have children without being married. And I disappointed her twice with that. And I don't care. And her and I got arguments about it all the time. I told her I did not have to be married to have children. Anyway, so that being said, I was working at a deli in downtown Sacramento, and I convinced the guy there to let me use his car to get my driver's license in. My boyfriend at the time had taught me how to drive a stick shift, but I didn't want to drive a stick shift. I had learned how to drive a stick shift when I was 14 from my father. He'd take me out and put me in the car and make me drive to get me ready to drive, but then never let me actually get my driver's license. I had a permit for a long time. So I did it all on my own, asking people and getting people to help me and stuff like that. I just dropped something. I don't know what it was. I have a mess going on. Sorry. A mess. Anyway, so once I got my driver's license, though, I was about 22. I drove my boyfriend's car a lot, but I needed a car, and so I started asking around for a car because I kept telling everybody I needed a car to get to work because I worked on one side of the other side of town, and I kind of needed a car. So what happened was my mom had a Datsun B210. Now, this car went through every family member it could before it got to me. So it had been well used. My mom had the car when I was 16, so she bought it when my parents right before my parents got a divorce. My dad bought her a little car, and that was the Datsun B210. So that was in 1980 something. So it looked like a 1970s car, though, because I don't think it was a brand new car when my dad bought it for my mom. though it might be a late 1970s. I'm going to share pictures that are a close proximity of each of the cars I got. Um, I have to think about it, so there'll be a lot of that. So I have to think in my head. I have notes, but not the notes just tell me what the car was. So it was this chocolate brown. My mother had tried to park in a parking spot she wasn't supposed to, and the lamps, with that big cement round thing, she ran into it on the passenger side, so the door had to be replaced. So it was this chocolate brown with a red door. Um, when I got it, it had a radiator issue, and so you'd have to pour water into it and then run it on hot. Turn the heater on to blow the hot air off the radiator. Um, I busted a hose in the bottom of my radiator, and I got stuck coming home from work. And the boyfriend at the time showed up and helped me patch it enough to get it to a shop, and then they fixed the radiator and everything for me. It ended up costing me, I think at the time, probably about $300, which was a lot. It was a lot of money. But I drove that car everywhere, all over California. Every place I could possibly go, I took that little car. Um, my boyfriend also had a Datsun. He had a different style Datsun with a hatchback on it. The more sportsy looking car. I don't know which one it is, but so between the two of us, we were cruising around all the time in cars. He eventually turned his car in and got himself a Volkswagen and started working on Volkswagen vans. Um, I drove that car to death. When in 1990, I left that boyfriend and hooked up with my daughter's father, and the car died when I was pregnant with my daughter. And so I didn't have a car. I had to walk and take the bus everywhere. I rode my bicycle a lot. It's really hard to ride a bicycle, though, pregnant. So that gentleman, my daughter's father, had an old El Camino truck, and that was his car. And it was so old it was falling apart. I mean, there were holes in the floorboard and everything. And he decided that that wasn't a good enough truck for putting a baby in. And it wasn't, because, I mean, it was a bench seat in the front, and that was it. So he went out and bought a little Geo Metro. It was in the 90s. I think it was a brand new car. He bought a brand new car, probably a year old. So I would say probably 1990, 1991. For the first year or so, it was his car. Took it to work and everything. I drove him to work when I started going back, because I was going to school while I was pregnant. So I drove that car everywhere as well. I did a lot of driving from Sacramento out to Marysville and back. I used to take that car. When I moved from Sacramento to Redding, that car was the car I had still. I used to take that car up these gigantic hills and down these. Well, the Datsun too. The Datsun, I lived in West Sacramento, and I went to Auburn, and it's all uphill steep to get to Auburn. Um, it's just there's a big hill you get up to Auburn, and that car would bog down at 35, but you'd flip over the other side, you'd be going 80. So so the Datsun, the engine just finally died. I couldn't get it repaired. I had the carburetor repaired. I'd had the thing, but it basically needed a brand new engine, and I didn't have the cash for it, so we junked it. The Geo, drove it. I drove it everywhere. I had a clutch replaced once. Drove it, and then it died. The engine died. I was saving $3,000 because except for when I backed into a tree and broke my broke my back window, my hatch window, because I was watching a guy I had a crush on. Yeah, even in your late 20s and 30s, you can have a crush on somebody and do stupid things. I thought it was in forward, and I ended up going in reverse and slammed into the car and shattered my window. So we plexiglassed the window until I could get it fixed. But I drove that car from Redding to Susanville to Reno and back, up and down those hills all the time. Great little car, wonderful little car. Tires were cheap on it, wonderful. It just died. It wouldn't start one day, and I didn't have the money to get it fixed, so I parked it. And the guy down from where I lived said he'd give me $200 for it. I said, I'll just give it to you, because I can't really do anything with the 200. I mean, I could, but I couldn't buy another car with it, so I just gave that to him. I was dating a guy who was in Chico. He would come up and hang out with me every once in a while, and he realized he didn't have a car, so I couldn't come and see him. So he came up, took the bus up to Reading, and we went car shopping, and he found me a little car, which, interestingly enough, he bought it from a guy that eventually I would live by. It was very intriguing to me, but a long time after he went. So he bought me a Ford Fairmont. Which is a really nice car. He got it for $500. He picked it up because he could fix it. I have people doing this to me all the time. They buy cars that they can fix, and then they leave, and I still can't get my car fixed. But he bought the Ford Fairmont for me, and again, ran it. Then it started having problems starting. It would start some days and it wouldn't start. I had it repaired. I had quite a few bits and pieces of the car, all the carburetor, the fuel injector. I had all that stuff looked at and taken care of. Finally, my mom suggested I take it down to this big auto shop place in Reading and have them take a look at it and see, what it was. And so they decided it was in the electrical harness and that it would cost me $1,000 or more to have them just go through and find out what was wrong in it. I couldn't afford that, so I junked the car. I love that car, though. Another little car, it was the old, it looked like the old, you'll see a picture of it, but it always reminds me of like Men in Black style kind of car if it was black, But it was good to put the kids in. And then, my daughter in, but it was enough room that there was three seat belts in the back, so I could put her and two other her friends, plus I had a bench seat in the front, so you got two, so a total of 6 people could ride in that car. So that was good when you had kids, so you could take them places, because that's pretty much what it was. That was in 1998. So the Geo I got in 1991, it crashed in 1997, and then in 1998, the little blue Fairmont crashed too. So the next car I got, my stepfather found for me. It was a Chevy Luminian, something like that. I don't know. And he got it for me for $1,200, so it's probably the most expensive car I paid for. I just graduated from junior college in my 30s with an AA, and I was going to be going to Chico University, which was 90 miles away. And so I made that drive first in my Chevrolet. Actually, I first started doing it with a lady who would pick me up at 4 o'clock in the morning and take me so I could sit outside the school. No, she picked me up at 6 something, but I also took the bus, and the bus, I had to catch the bus at 4 in the morning to get to school by 7 o'clock, and then I would wait an hour to start my classes, and then I would take a bus back, all the way back to Reading late at night, so my whole day was spent. So for a while I was gone 2 to 3 days a week, and my daughter was pretty much doing her own thing with other people. It was really hard. It was a very hard time for me. So I got that car, and everything looked good, and it was really well, but sad to say. And we colored the back of it with these little cute stickers, which I'll share. You used to get them out of vending machines. My daughter and I started doing them, and we put them on the back of that car. things, I was driving to school for a final, and my car just stopped on the freeway, and it had, the piston had gotten a hole in it. It blew a piston through, the rod pulled through the piston, and I had to tow the car, and I got stuck in Chico. Tow it, and they said, oh, you know, you're going to have a whole new set of cylinders put in. And so that freaked me out, and I was like, I can't do that. I left the car there, and then I got a ticket for littering. Obviously, if you leave cars on the side of the road, that's what. And so they had to impound it. I had to pay the impound. I had to pay the ticket. I had to go to court for it. It was the worst thing. I never did that again. Because in the past, I had left. You could leave cars places and take their license, the license plate off of them.
They laid an egg on the ground.
Yeah, because you let her out. This is their egg laying time.
I didn't let them out.
Or how'd they lay an egg on the ground?
No, like in there.
Oh, yeah, because they're all down underneath the thing. Sorry, eggs laying. We've got 3 eggs a day now. We have 5 chickens, so soon we'll have 5 eggs. Me and the chickens, we spend a lot of time together. Go to my Twitter, you'll see that. Anyway, so that was a mess in itself, and I was, at that time, I was like here with cars. I didn't want nothing to do with cars, so I didn't have a car for a while. I was pregnant in 2003, 2004 with my son, and I was getting to the point where school was becoming more of a problem. And then, so my son's father would take me to Chico in an old 1950s International. Is that a second egg?
No, it looks like a first one of someone because it's later.
Well, then that would mean we'd have 4 coming. If you got a light egg, because yesterday I had a light egg from the other one.
Okay. Oh wow, yeah.
So we're moving along with our eggs here. Anyway, so he had this International. I think it was a 1954, 55, and man, that thing, boom, 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 boom. And I had to do my finals. I took that car because my other car died in finals. So in 2004, my son was born. I didn't really have a. Well, I did have a car by then. What happened was I got a station wagon. I think it was my first set of finals in the fall of 2003 that I had to ride the bus and other stuff because my car died. But then I think in 2004, I found a station wagon this guy was selling. It wasn't in very good shape. I didn't have to pay very much for it. I don't remember exactly how much, but it was a 1970s Ford Country Squire. So you had the bench seat in the front, so you had 3 people there, and then you had the middle seat with 3 seat belts, and then you had the back reversed one that faced the other way, which also had 3. So I could get 9 people in that car. Through 2004 to 2005, and then it died, and I don't remember why it died, but it was something that had to do with the starter and the carburetor, and my son's father was supposed to fix it, but by that time he was starting to do drugs more severely, so that stuff wasn't getting done. In between those, though, the one of the cars that I had a car in between the Ford and the Chevrolet before I started going out to Chico. It was Ford Taurus that my son's father got me for $200 because he was convinced he could fix the car. That car sat where I lived for almost 6 months because there were tools that he didn't have that we had to keep buying for him to get into it. He finally got the dang thing fixed, and then we sold it because I just didn't want it. It wasn't trustworthy, like, because you drive it and then it just died for some reason, and I didn't want it sitting again, so I sold it for $500, and we made a profit of $300. But I'm sure we put $300 in it to keep it running. I really didn't like the car. I don't know, but I don't have much memory of what happened to the car because I didn't like the car. So, and that's when I got my station wagon, and he was really upset that I got the station wagon. I wouldn't keep the Taurus, but I got rid of the Taurus very quickly. I was sure. And then the guy who bought the Taurus called us back and said it was having some issues, and we gave him all the tools we had for the transmission. And then that was the end of that. But I had the Ford Country for about a year, and then things fell apart with my son's father and I, and he became very violent because he was doing drugs, even though he says he was not doing drugs. And so I forced him, well, I didn't force him, but I convinced him to leave by paying him money and so he could get his truck fixed. And then he left, and I moved everybody out of there, out of that apartment, and me and my kids, because I had a couple of roommates at the time. Me and my kids moved to Summit City. I bought a van. I don't remember what year the van was. I want to say it was a 2000, but it could have been a 1990. I bought it off the lot used. And again, just drove the heck out of it. It was my first and only car I ever bought. Like a new car where you go and make the loan and you buy it. All my cars had been bought secondhand from other people, or given to me. And I drove that till it died, and then I sold it to a cancer. I had a guy come out and take it for cancer while I still owed on it. And it's one of my debts that I probably have an outstanding debt for still. I didn't have much left to pay on it. I had to file for bankruptcy, so I lost quite a few things. You can put your car down in your bankruptcy, but the car didn't run anymore. So I was the owner of a broken car, and then I had it junked. So that was the last car I had. After that, we had another van that was kind of like the first van that my daughter bought. And then she actually bought her Hyundai, which we still have, that's over 10 years old. We haven't had it for 10 years old. She bought it used, but we've now had it for 6 years, going on 6 years. It's a nice little car. I have to say, as far as cars go, the Hyundai is pretty good. It's just really hard to get parts for. It's worse than the Taurus on that concept. But it's really hard to get, and I think just because it comes from China. But the car itself, knock on wood, seems to, knock on wood, seems to run pretty well once they fix it. I don't plan on ever owning another car again or buying, because I can't drive anymore because of my shoulder. I'm going to try next year to see if I can get my driver's license back here in Oregon, but just driving every once in a while hurts my shoulder so bad. The tendonitis is just like out the roof with the fibromyalgia, and then the anxiety of driving. Just like, I love to drive, I love it, but I don't want to be pulled over, and that freaks me out. Don't ask me why. There's a lot of anxiety stuff that has occurred after my fibromyalgia that I didn't really have prior to this big lapse of the fibromyalgia becoming out the roof, with my mental health going out the roof with it, and getting so sick. It's really weird how I look in my past, and I've been sick off and on, but the bouts of it were longer stretches. Like I'd have 2 years where I never have no problem with nothing, and then years where I had nothing but problems with my back and nothing but problems with my knees, and my mental health was so severe that I just took time off from work. But nothing like this where it's every week I got something going on, and body parts are always causing me problems. It's so frustrating and disabling, and almost to the point of where I just sometimes have to sit and cry because I just can't move forward with things. Anyway, that's it for Bits of Me. The next one's a topic. I think I want to talk about the evil little voice in your head. which has to do for me with my mental health. But I'm sure we all have little evil voices in our head. Anyway, I'll catch you guys all on the flip side. Also, remember, um, tomorrow, this will come out Friday, July 31st. August 1st is my birthday. I do have, ever since I started streaming, I do a birthday stream. We'll go back to the 4 streams, possibly. I'm going to do Grounded, which is a new game that came out on Xbox. I only have the preview, though. And then I'm going to do No Man's Sky. And part of it, my nephew's going to join me because he wants to figure out how to do videoing. And then I'm going to do Dragon Age because I like to get that one finished. So I'm open for another game if you guys want to in the time period to send me a suggestion for a game. You guys all know the games I play. I have a couple of new games that I could start. I just haven't. I could play Human Falls Flat with the baby. That might be what we end up doing because he really likes to play that game. Anyway, so that's it. The videos for crafting have been kind of put on hold. They'll be starting back up by next Saturday. It's just because if you see behind me, I have a mess going on. I have a mess in the house. I have a mess everywhere because I got new stuff and it's kind of a problem. Anyway, catch you later.